Hi guys, and welcome back to Sheddy's Kitchen. I'm Sheddy. Today we're looking at making one of my mum's classic desserts. It's a rice pudding. Not like the one that I remember when I was younger in school, and some people do remember having rice pudding with prunes. We're not doing that. We're going to do the Pakistani version to this. So it is a vegetarian recipe. So are you ready? Let's get cooking. So for this recipe, you're going to need 2.5 litres of water, 300 grams of pudding rice, and this is the one we're using here, but it makes no difference as long as it's pudding rice. Quarter teaspoon of cooking salt, 4 pints of whole milk, what you need to do is get 5 cardamom pods, take the seeds out and crush them as well. $125 grams of butter. Now try to go for the unsalted one. It doesn't matter if it is salted. We are adding salt to this, as you know, in the recipe, but we tend to go for unsalted butter. $200 grams of sugar, and during the course of the recipe you can taste this and see if you think that there's not enough sugar, go for more. We tend to put a bit less in. 25 grams of raisin, but again, this is just a suggestion. If you prefer more raisins in your rice pudding, you can put more in. $50 grams of coconut. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. If you don't like the taste of whole chopped coconut, I mean we do cut them into little slices. You can add desiccated coconut, but if you do decide to add desiccated coconut into there, you'd put it in at the end on top. You wouldn't mix it into the mixture. But you can buy these pre-chopped in a pack as well, so you need 50 grams of that. And finally, 25 grams of crushed almonds. Again, there's 2 ways you can prepare the crushed almonds. Either you can crush them, or if you prefer otherwise, you can just boil them in some water, remove the skin from the outside and leave them in halves. So the first thing we need to do is add your 2.5 litres of water to the pan, and we're going to need to put that onto a high heat, and I'll do that now. And we can leave that there you go, and I'm going to leave that to boil away now. As soon as it boils, we're going to add the next part of the ingredient. So the water has started to boil now, so we need to get onto the next part of what we need to add. So at this point, we need to add the rice into the boiling water. So I'll do that now. And to that, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And at this point, what we will do is we won't actually put the lid back on. We need to keep mixing this. It's important we mix this, and we'll be doing this for approximately 5 minutes. It may take longer than that. The aim of this part over here is for the water level to go down. We want as much water to be lost as possible, and we want the rice to begin cooking, and the rice needs to be more than half boiled. So that's what we're aiming for over here. So I'm going to carry on stirring this and keep stirring this to prevent the rice sticking to the bottom of the pan. And I'll be doing this for about 5 minutes or so, and we'll judge it by eye to when you know it's ready. Right, so you can see most of the water has actually either been soaked into the rice or evaporated off now. This is where we want to get to, and if you have a look here, you can see that it's becoming quite mushy. That's the consistency we're looking for. I've been stirring this now quite a lot. Be really careful because it's starting to get quite dense and harder to mix, and you don't want it sticking to the bottom. Drop your heat onto a lower heat. So I've got that onto a low heat now, and at this point over here, we're going to add the 4 pints of milk and the cardamom seeds in, and then I'll put that back onto a high heat again and leave that to start boiling. That's added. Just add the seeds into there. So that's the crushed seeds that we had, the cardamom seeds. Give that a nice mix. I'll put that back onto a high heat again, and we'll leave that to start boiling. We want to make sure with this that we boil and keep an eye on this for at least half of the milk in that pan to go down. I'll put that back into a high heat, and I'm going to leave that now to boil. So the milk is gradually heating up now, and hopefully it'll come to a boil at some point. What you need to keep doing is make sure you're mixing every so often right at the bottom of the pan to make sure that the rice isn't sticking to it. And you don't need to do this a lot, just every so often come back to it, give it a little mix. The milk can carry on boiling, and hopefully it will start to go down, and just give it a nice mix, and then come back to it again, and we'll carry on letting that boil. So the milk is starting to boil now. You can see the bubbles coming up at the top. If you are a bit uncomfortable with this milk rising, you can drop the heat to slightly lower so that doesn't happen. Especially if you're using a smaller saucepan, it's more likely to come up, just boil over. So just be aware of that. Keep mixing it, it shouldn't happen. We're going to add the next 4 ingredients now. So we're going to add to this the butter, the sugar. Now keep stirring so it doesn't stick on the bottom, and really mix in all this. So we'll add that sugar. Remember the sugar, if you do taste it and it feels that you want more sugar in there, you can always add more sugar in there. Just don't scald yourself or anything when you are tasting that. The butter's starting to melt nicely into there. We're going to add the raisins, and again, raisins are a choice. We're using 25 grams. If you want to add more, you can add more. That's not a problem at all. And I'll add coconut to that as well. If you are adding desiccated coconut, don't add it at this point, just add it as a sprinkle at the top, at the end, when you are plating the dish. So I'm going to give that a mix now. I'll keep mixing that, and what we're doing over here now, we're going to allow the milk to continue boiling. Make sure your butter is completely melted into that. It should melt down, but we're going to allow it to boil. We want to lose as much milk as we can, so that's the water that we're losing there, and we'll come back to this when it's near ready. So the milk is actually going down a fair bit now. If you have a look, and I will show you some of the rice, you can see that the mixture is getting quite thicker. Still a fair bit of liquid in there, but the rice itself, the grains are still relatively full, and we don't want the rice grains to be full. We want them to break down into this liquid mixture. So at this point, what I would suggest you do, if it's the same for yourself, is to drop this onto a medium heat to allow more time for the rice to start breaking up. So that's on a medium heat now. We're going to leave that like that to carry on breaking down. and for the milk to start decreasing. That will allow this to thicken up. Right, you can see now that the rice pudding is relatively thick. Don't worry too much about the bit of liquid that's still left there, because when we take this off heat now, you normally let it settle for about an hour in the pan, and a lot of that it'll allow the rice pudding to thicken further. That's something you would do. So when I switch this off now, I will go ahead and plate this, and you can finish off by sprinkling the almonds on the top of the pudding and the dish. So that there is now done. This is particularly hot at the moment, so I do want to go and get my parents' reaction. Just before I do though, just to let you know good ways that you can eat this. Some people like to have it hot. I myself, I prefer it quite cold, so popping it into the fridge allows it to thicken up a lot more, and it tastes amazing when if it's really warm outside and you want it cold, it tastes absolutely amazing. So time to get parents' reaction. Parent approval met. If you want to follow more of my recipes, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, click that notification bell. Thank you and see you soon.